Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, like no other church and no other Christmas series you've ever experienced before, please direct your attention to the center ring as New Hope Community Church proudly presents the greatest show on earth.
Morning, New Hope. How are you? Yeah. Woo. Hey, before I tell you how excited and stoked I am to be up here again, how about another hand for Miss Bethany and the kids from Hopeland and Extreme Kids? Now, I don't know about the Hopeland children, but for all of you parents of Extreme Kids, I'm hearing something there. Okay, better. Every year when we do this, when we do our Christmas program, because of the kids' hard work of practicing and going through and just being excited to be in the big room with the adults, I give them a fun day. So I just want to let you guys know, you parents of kids and Extreme Kids, that right now they're upstairs drinking punch and eating cookies and having popcorn and just getting all good and sugared up. So there's really no need to thank me now. You can thank me later. But seriously, I cannot thank Miss Bethany enough for her time she spends with the children getting these programs together. They enjoy it in a way that I can't even express, because I can't tell you how many times they tell me they just can't wait to go do big people church, because to them this is a whole different world, and to be a part of even for a few moments, it just makes their day, and it's something I really appreciate her doing. But, back to it. It is my honor and my privilege, and I'm really excited because I've never got to kick off a series, so I get to kick off this series, and I would love to welcome you to our new Christmas series, The Greatest Show on Earth. Now, when I think of the greatest show on earth, I just think of, the lights, and we've done a great job with the stage, and all the action and the motion and the things that are going on, the energy and the excitement. And you go to watch the animals, and you see these animals, and they're humongous, and you're just amazed by them. And then there's people that are out performing, and there's acts of strength, and there's people on the high wire swinging back and forth, and there's somebody nailed to a board spinning around, and somebody's throwing knives at them, and it's just everything's happening, and it's exciting. And it's just amazing to watch, but it can be it can be overwhelming. It can just be too much to handle. And I remember for me, my very first experience with this. I was 8 years old, and the fair, the circus, the big top experience came to Shelby. It came to the airport. I know Shelby has an airport. It's shocking to me too, but it comes to the airport, and I get to go as an 8-year-old. And the first thing I noticed, I'd seen these things on TV, is I come up, and there's the elephants, and they're huge. You're just astonished by the size of these animals. And then you climb the little steps, and you get to sit on the little chair, and you get to ride them, and they're fuzzy and they're hairy, and it's just overwhelming. And we're walking around outside the big top, and there's all these people performing, and you're watching it, and it's amazing, because these people do these tricks, and you just can't, as a child, you just can't understand it. And then you go into the big top, and there's this constant motion and lights and action, and everything is going on. And to tell you the truth, the one thing I remember most about that visit is by the time I went home, I had such a horrible headache. I just could not handle. It was overwhelming. I couldn't handle the action and the emotion. It was just too much for me. And when you think about that, when you think about how, as a child, as a person, you're excited to go to the big top, and it's a wonderful thing, but because of all the things that are going on, all these additional things, that often it becomes overwhelming. I think this time of year really fits that idea of the greatest show on earth. The lights, the action, the constant motion, the energy, the excitement, presents, Christmas lights, parties, families and friends, no school, sledding, snowmen, hot chocolate, sleigh rides, caroling, on and on and on, all the things that go on. And for most of us, most kids, most of us, this is a wonderful time of year. And for adults, it's enjoyable too. We look forward to it. It's exciting. We like to see our kids be happy. But it can also be challenging. It can also be difficult. It can also, at times, even be overwhelming. And as I was working, on this message, I thought, I'm talking to my kids, I realized my own kids hadn't been to the circus. My own wife hadn't been to the circus. I thought there's going to be people that can't relate to that. So I started thinking, what is something that kind of works the same way, applies the same way? And I thought, you know what it is? It's Chuck E. Cheese. Because as a kid, or even an adult, when you're invited to a party, not that it's your own, but when you get to go, it can be awesome. A kid, it's got, you got the lights, and you got the games, and you got the noises, and you got the pizza, and you get to run around, and you get to win prizes. It's very similar conceptually to the greatest show on earth. And even as an adult, when you're there as a visitor, you get to hang out with adults, you get to watch the cute kids play, and you don't have to worry about it. But it all changes the minute it's your kids and it's their party. Because now at this point, it's a whole different world. You now are responsible for other children that you can't lose. So you got to watch them. And then you start worrying, did everyone get enough food to eat? When do we bring the cake out? Should we open presents now? How much more time do we have left? Oh, here comes Chucky. We got to do that. Did everyone have a good time? Oh, no. Did the kids tell Grandma goodbye? Oh, she's going to be mad again. They forgot to say goodbye. Oh, where did Johnny go? Johnny, where's Johnny? Has anybody seen Johnny? His parents are to pick him up, and I have no idea where he is. Oh, let's not ever, ever do this again. But by next year, it's birthday time again. And you go, man, we got to clean the house. We got to pick up. We got to decorate. We got to hang balloons. We got to do all these things. You know what? We take the kids to Chuck E. Cheese. We don't have to worry about that. The kids will have fun. They're a year older. It won't be that bad. It can't be as bad as it was last year. Let's do it again. Let's schedule. Let's go to Chuck E. Cheese again. This will be fine. And we do it again, just like the Christmas season. We do it again. We repeat it. And as in Chuck E. Cheese, sometimes it's a painful experience. And in our culture, most of us approach this time of year, regardless of what might have happened last year, with that same energy and excitement like when you go to Chuck E. Cheese. But like that return visit to Chuck E. Cheese, often this time of year comes with a bunch of extra stress and pressure that just goes along with this time of year. Maybe it's a certain event that's happened. Maybe during this season you lost a loved one. Maybe it's a family gathering where you're going to see that relative that it takes everything you have to get through and be polite and kind to for that period of time. Maybe it's that Christmas party at work. I don't really like being around those people every day of the week. And now I got to go hang out with them extra and have a good time. Maybe it's trying to buy that perfect gift or complete that long list of gift ideas. Maybe it's the heavy burden that that this season's going to give you financially when it's all said and done. Whatever it is, whatever causes that extra stress and that extra pressure that we all feel, it really doesn't matter. It's just the fact that it exists. It's just the fact that many times this season, we're not about the reasons we should be. It's because of all these other things that are going on, these stresses and these pressures. And it really makes me wonder, is your holiday season like a circus? On the outside, your holiday season might look fun. There's lights, and there's a tree, and there's parties, and there's food, and there's presents, and there's time with family and friends, and it's just a wonderful thing. But on the inside, for many of us, it doesn't work that way. On the inside, we are doing everything we possibly can just to survive, just to get through it. And in this series, in this circus-themed series, each week we're going to look at a person that you find in the greatest show on earth. And we're going to look at that person, then we're going to compare him to a biblical counterpart that's from the Christmas story. And this week, the person we're going to look at is the Ringleader. And if you've ever had the pleasure of being to the circus or watching the circus on TV, that person, he or she probably looks something like this. Very formal, the top hat, the whip. And in the greatest show on earth, in the circus, because there's so much going on, it can be overwhelming. This person is the person that keeps everything moving. The person that directs us as an audience, directs our attention from point A to point B, keeps us looking where we need to look, keeps us from seeing what we shouldn't see yet, tells us what's going to happen next and what to expect. And even though to us as the people watching it, it seems very chaotic and it seems very all over the place, this person is in complete control. They know exactly what should happen. They know when it should happen. They know how it should happen. And this type of person, even though we experience them in the greatest show on earth, this type of person exists in our regular lives too. And I'm pretty sure if we each took a moment and we thought about it, and we thought about what a ringleader type person is, we could come up with somebody that fills that type of person in our lives. And for many of us, we experienced this type of person early in life. For me, and I would suspect for many of you, that person was my mother. Mothers serve an amazing role to us as children. They keep us focused in the right direction. They care more about us than they care about anything else in this world. They will do anything they possibly can to make sure that us as children are happy, are healthy, and are as successful as we possibly could be. And as I've come to find, no matter how old you get, and no matter how far you move away, that never changes. Your mothers, your parents, your grandmothers, whoever that person might be, they're always going to be a ringleader in your life. And I got a little bit of a secret to tell you. But you got to promise me you can't tell anybody else. So for many of us men, as we leave childhood and we move into adulthood, and especially once we get married, there's another ringleader type person that enters our life. Now, as men, we will tell you, we wear the pants in this family. What we says goes, darn it. But for most of us, dare I say all of us, if it wasn't for our wives, kind of the same thing. Our wives, we would be lost. It's a miracle I can tie my own shoes. So whether, we're under the big top in the greatest show on earth, or we're interacting with these type of people in our everyday lives, these ringleader type of people, they often have several good attributes that they all share. They have attributes that make them good leaders, that make them good people, that make them care about others. And I really would like to take a few moments to look at these good qualities that you find in these people. And the first attribute we see in a good ringleader is the attribute of direction. Ringleaders give direction. They keep us focused. They keep us from seeing what we shouldn't see or being exposed to what we shouldn't be exposed, what we're not ready for yet. In terms of the greatest show on earth, this is incredibly critical. The ringleader has to give direction on everything for it to successfully operate and move and be enjoyable to the people watching it. And in our personal lives, they let you know what you need to do. They let you know how you need to do it and how it should be done. For wives and especially mothers, this is an incredibly critical process for them to take care of their families and their children and their home. They have to have direction and provide direction. Now, it was funny, last night at the Ridge, as I'm talking about this idea of direction, I had forgot to silence my phone, and it rang. And in just a moment in time, I pick it up to turn it off. I'm apologetic, and it says, Mom. And I went, well, this could be interesting. So I said, hey, play along with me, and I answered the phone call. Hey, Mom, how's it going? She goes, hey, what are you doing? I'm at church. She's like, oh, are you busy? No, not really. Nah, I'm good. And she goes, well, I'll be quick. I just needed to call and tell you that dinner's going to be at 2. I talked to your brother. Dinner's going to be at 2 o'clock. And you can get your nephew that game that he talked about. But make sure, she's not calling to tell me. Make sure you tell April, your wife, because she's the important one, which now as I'm telling this story, would one of you please, before today's over, remind me to tell April that dinner's at 2 and it's okay to get that gift for her nephew? Because I saw her last night and apparently my mom knows me well. I forgot. But it was really unique for that time and situation that, that was what she was calling about. As my mother, who, I'm older and moved away, giving me direction so that I am successful in what I need to do in life. So it's really definitely an awesome attribute you see in a ringleader, and you experience whether it be at the greatest show on earth or with people that you deal with on an everyday basis. And another cool attribute of a ringleader is their idea, their desire for the audience. In the greatest show on earth, this is the most critical thing. It has to be all about the audience and doing everything you can to maximize the show for them. In terms of the ringleader there, they want you to have the greatest time you've ever had. And it's a professional need. Because if you don't have a good time, you're not going back. You're not telling people, hey, go see that show. Go to that circus. It's critical for their success. They want it to be the most enjoyable thing it can be to you. They want it to be the greatest show on earth. And in terms of our moms and our wives, they always, no matter what, want what's best for us. They want us to be successful and happy. They want us to enjoy our lives. It's a great attribute that we see in ringleaders. And another attribute we see is they're about, ringleaders have a tendency to be about the experience. In the greatest show on earth, in the end, they want to be sure that you had the best possible experience that you possibly could have. They want to see you leaving the show talking about how amazing it was, and we need to tell our friends and our uncles and our relatives to come see this show because it was amazing, it was awesome. They want it to be an experience that when you think back about it, you're talking about how you went to that circus when you were 8 years old and it was many, many years later. They want the experience to be something that is just amazing. And for many of us, we experience that same thing, as I've previously mentioned, with the best ringleader I think we have a tendency to interact with in the form of our mother. That person, the experience is the idea to keep us focused, to point us in the right direction, to care for us more than they care for themselves, and to do everything possible to make sure that we enjoy and experience the best of life. There are a lot of good qualities that ringleaders show us. A lot of things that are natural about them that make them good ringleaders and wonderful people to be around and to experience. But as with everything, not all ringleaders are good. Not all ringleaders have good qualities. There are people in our lives that serve that type of person, that serve that type of thing of a ringleader that in not a positive way, that do not have these good qualities. So when we talk about ringleaders, we really need to think about and considering these type of people. We really need to think about the dark side. I wish I could begin to express my happiness with that slide. I was sharing how I was working on this, and when I got to that slide, I was traveling and I fell asleep. I dreamed about that slide. Just because of the moment, the fact we could pay homage to what we had done previously. And it's such a wonderful thing. If you know me, this is pretty awesome. But for these people, for these ringleaders that aren't necessarily the greatest qualities, that aren't in it for the good, that don't approach it to be positive and encouraging to people. These people in particular are not about direction and providing people direction, but they're more about control. They're not about the audience and doing what's best for them. They're really only about themselves. And they really could care less about what our experience is or what others' experiences are. They're more interested in fueling their own ego and making sure that their own experiences are awesome and amazing. Now, we do have to understand, because just as we could think of people that are good ringleaders in our life, I'm sure every one of us, if we took a moment, could think of people we interact with that serve as a ringleader type that aren't the most positive in the world. And we really need to understand that sometimes there's a reason for that with these type of people. You know, sometimes it's just something simple as they're very insecure. It's an insecurity issue. It's a way to protect themselves and to hide for their own problems. And as believers and people that want to love others, we really need to keep that in mind, and we need to love these people, and we need to help them, and we need to pray for them. But sometimes these people, it's much more than that. They're this way because something deep inside of them is very broken. There's a darkness or even an evil to them. And we need to pray for those type of people too that we interact with. But we also need to be very careful, because when we interact with those type of people aren't interested in changing themselves all too often. They're more interested in bringing you into how they want to live their life. They want to affect you in a negative way. They want you to be the same miserable, unhappy person they are. So even though we want to love and pray for them, you need to be very careful, and we all need to be very careful as we interact with these people to not get caught in their trap. And when we look at the Christmas story today, the person we're going to look at, this individual kind of encompasses what we would think of as somebody that isn't necessarily a good ringleader, that really is in a leadership type role but doesn't do it from a sense of good and being in the right reasons. And the person we're going to look at today is King Herod the Great. And we're going to read about him in Matthew chapter 2. And it begins by saying, when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed. Heard what? What did he hear? What disturbed him when he heard it? Well, what had happened was the people had seen a star. And they were making their way, they were following the star's guidance to find a king that had been born. Herod couldn't believe it. There was something he didn't know. A king that wasn't Herod? A worship meant for someone that was not him? How could this be? And what it really shows us is these folks, these ringleaders that are not necessarily in it for good reasons, these ringleaders are disturbed when it isn't all about them. And we all know people like this. We all know people like this, and probably every day of our lives we interact with someone that's that way. That the minute it's not about them, the minute it's not focused on them, they become upset. They don't want to be part of the process. They're not fun to interact with. And the thing is that in some ways, we all have this tendency inside of us. And we either have to choose to control it or just let loose. I mean, do you find that it disturbs you sometimes when you feel like you were left out of the loop? Or maybe you were the last to know something? Or perhaps you're somewhere and you are not the center of attention? You know, why do those people that feel this way feel that they, it always has to be about them? We know those people. Do you feel that way sometimes? Do you find yourself in life wanting it to be all about you? To be perfectly honest with you, this is something that I have always struggled with. I laugh and I have fun, and I'm very kid-like, I'm told. But personally and professionally, I need to be in control. I am no happier than when I feel like I know everything that's going on, I know when it's going to go on, and I know how it's going to go on. That is my happy spot. Knowing the what and the when and the how of each situation is just happiness to me. But the hard part is, and we all know this, that's not how life works. Get married, have a couple kids. But what it's really about, though, is how do each of us, when we face these situations that are difficult to us, how do each of us deal with those situations? Because it really says a lot about who we are. And we'll kind of see here, and it kind of applies here, we'll see how, as we look at the verse, how does Herod deal with this in this situation? What does he do? Well, now that he's been told that there's people traveling because they've seen the star and there's this new king they're going to find, he calls all of his chief priests and the teachers of the law together. And they try to find out or figure out where this king, this Messiah, is supposed to be born. And they determine that this child is going to be born in the city of Bethlehem. And then once King Herod knows that, he circles back around, because now he knows where this child's supposed to be born. He circles back around, and he focuses on the people that are traveling to find this Messiah, find this child. And watch this. We see it in the verse, and it says, "Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. And he instructs them, he says, 'Go and search carefully for that child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him.'" Now you got to notice that he didn't make this proclamation to go find the child to the public. He didn't make this proclamation to everybody to increase his odds of finding this child. Oh no, he did it very secretly. He instructed in secret for these people to find this child. He wanted to know, when did this happen? When did the star that these travelers are following, when did it exactly appear? But not to let them on to his thoughts. He plays the situation very well, because as the verse continued, you see that he says to them, I'm instructing you to go find this so that we may find this Messiah, this king, so that I, King Herod, may worship him. That sounds fun. But King Herod had no interest in worshiping this child. He didn't have any interest in worshiping anyone. He is not coming at this as a good ringleader. He's mad because he wants to be in complete control. And he's already had a situation where there's been a star that appears and there's people following, looking for a king that isn't him. He's mad to begin with. So he wants to find this child. And he's going to tell people that, hey, I want to just worship him. But he doesn't want to worship him. He doesn't have any interest in worshiping. He doesn't want anything out of this situation other than to protect himself and to make people worship him. So what's really going on here? And what we see is that this type of ringleader, a ringleader's power, ability to control the situation, a ringleader's power demands that they are in the know. If we look at the verse, King Herod was disturbed that he didn't know. And immediately, as soon as he realized there was this situation that he didn't know, he began to act in ways to work and to manipulate and to control every possible angle so that he could stay in the know. So that he could continue in this situation to be the pinnacle of information, so that nothing more would happen without him knowing what was going on. Now, the people that were following the star, they found the baby, the king, the Messiah, who was Jesus. And they worshiped him. They worshiped him as the new king, as the foreseen king, as the Messiah. But God warned them. God warned them and said, do not go back to Herod. So these travelers returned home a different route so that they wouldn't go back to where King Herod was. And we really need to understand and watch here what happens when the king, Herod, finds out that these travelers he's looking for, not only did they find the child, did they find the Messiah, did they worship him, but they went home a different way. They didn't come back to face him, to be around him. The verse says, when Herod realized that he had been outwitted by these travelers, he was absolutely furious. He was furious. And he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time that he had learned from the Magi that the star had appeared. Now, in this time, at this point in time in the world, killing someone to protect your throne, it probably wasn't all that uncommon. It probably wasn't unheard of. It probably happened more often than we would think. But the mass murder of every child in a city or a region under the age of 2, that's a power grab. That's somebody trying to hold on to their control. And it just shows the level of insecurity that King Herod had at this time. He wanted nothing more to be the only person worshipped, the only person to know, the only person in control, the only king, the only Messiah. And the sad truth of the situation is that this baby, Jesus, had absolutely no interest in King Herod's throne. His interest was in a much more powerful throne. And really in that way, he was no threat to King Herod at all. But with these type of ringleaders, they perceive these threats, they escalate them in ways that probably are much more than they really are, because they have this innate desire to hold on and keep control and to just manage everything for their own benefit. And his reaction really shows us something about this type of ringleader. And that is when a ringleader like this loses focus, loses control of the situation, often it results in widespread death. Now, in our verse, this truly and literally was what happened. His losing of control, losing of focus on the situation resulted in him ordering that all of these children be killed. But in our own personal lives, this kind of happens too. If each of us think of a situation where we interact with or we're exposed to maybe a bad ringleader, if you will. And a lot of times, it's in situations that are at the holidays, a Christmas party, a family gathering. And we go out of our way this time of year to really kind of remove ourselves or protect ourselves from our exposure to them, from their presence. Because they're just the presence of that type of person and our interaction with them, it adds stress and it adds pressure. And it really is almost like an internal type of death that we have to deal with time and time again, and we just try to go out of our way to simply avoid. But as I thought about it, this pressure and this stress and our just trying to interact with life itself and deal with these various type of people, we asked the question earlier, does your Christmas season, does it feel like a circus? Because of these things, does your Christmas season feel like a circus? But for some of us, saying that just this time of year, this particular season is worse because of these various things, because of these various people, it's really a cover-up. Because if each of us took the time to examine ourselves, we would find that we're probably hiding the truth a little bit. And that if we really took our time and were honest with ourselves and we considered it, we have these struggles not just in this season, but all year long. And it really, maybe the better question is your life a circus? Is it a circus during this season? It is your life like a circus? We all have too much going on. We have too many things we have to control. We have so many ways to try to manage what's going on in our life and take control of it. Some of us have gotten to the point that we've fired every ringleader in our life. Because no matter what we tried to do and no matter how many people tried to tell us what to do and to take care of us, it just wasn't working out. And we fired them all because you know what? We can do it better ourselves. But what happens then is, you realize pretty quickly that I can't do this by myself. I can't do this at all. And we struggle then because we're in this rut and we can't deal with life and the stresses and the pressures and the different things that are going on. And then we start to feel these dark things, this dark side of stuff creep into our lives. We begin to have this need for control and to need to just make it about us and to try to control others and try to be in the know. And we become difficult. We become that person that we try to escape from. So to be fair, I started to evaluate, hey, isn't that bad? It's Christmas. How am I doing? I'm doing okay. I'm making it through the Christmas season. I thought, boy, still got some presents to buy. I got some dance recitals to go to, a couple parties to attend, family events to manage, but I'll be okay. But with school being out, and I do work for the schools, that means, boy, work's going to get busy. Boy, and I don't know when I'm going to spend time with my family. And if I do get time off, boy, there's still some stuff to get done at the house. I got to get the Christmas lights up. I got to finish getting the decorations out. There's really a lot of stuff to get done if I get time there. And then once we get through this Christmas thing, it's New Year's. Dance is going to start back up. I don't know how we're going to do that. And boy, my wife, April, she's been working from home, but first year she's got to go back to work, so she's not going to be there when the kids get off the bus. I don't know how we're going to do that. I don't know, how are we going to manage that? Where are they going to go? Because I don't know that I want them by themselves all the time. And here at church, man, it's this year, coming year, it's VBS. We got to start planning for that. We got to start having meetings. Because before long, it's going to be June or July or August, and it's going to be here. And at work, we've got this new software that's going in. And it's going to be 6 months of training. I don't know how I'm going to manage that because I'm going to get off work later, and that's just going to change the whole schedule. I don't know how we're going to get the kids to dance. And then as far as here at church, I need more people to help me. I'm telling you what, I love these kids, but boy, if I don't get more help, I'm going to lose my mind. And it goes on, and as I evaluate my own life, to be fair, it just seems like it's never ending. And I just wish, and I find myself more times than not, I just wish there was a way to prioritize. I wish there was a way to find a better way to do it. I wish there was more ringleaders that I could trust, more people that can help me. I just wish there was a way to make it easier. I just wish that it was a way to solve all these problems. It's just too bad that there isn't a simple solution, that there isn't a way to fix this problem, that there isn't a way to fix my problem, that there isn't a way for you to fix your problems and deal with the stress, that there isn't a way for the world to fix its problems. But I'm here to tell you, there is a way. And there's one way. There's one ringleader. There's one person. There's one solution that will fix all of it. And that solution for everyone that sits in this room today is very simple. That solution is to choose to make Jesus your ringleader today. As people of faith, we have an opportunity this time of year to invite our Lord and Savior in like we don't many of the other months. And the problem is, as we've talked about, and I'm sure many of you related as we thought about the Christmas season, the problem is that so often, we bring him in, we see, his life and his death and his resurrection, and we choose to believe it, and we get the card that gives us a pass for everlasting life and a relationship with our God, and we take the card and we put it in our back pocket. And we have Jesus with us, but maybe he's at the kids' table. And as seasons take over and as Christmas takes over, we push him farther and farther to the side because we've got to make all this work. We've got to make those kids happy on Christmas morning. We open those presents, and we've got to be happy with our family and make work. And we have to make it all happy and good. And the problem is that, by doing this, we constantly choose to follow people, other ringleaders, and follow our own selves in ways that we can't ever manage. We let the season overwhelm us, and we struggle searching for the good ringleaders and the help to help us navigate through it. But the awesome thing is, seekers of some way to fix that, as seekers of, how do we make it better, we have the opportunity here and now to give Jesus the chance to be the best and the last ringleader that any of us ever need. We have the opportunity here and now to invite Jesus to be our own personal ringleader. An active and empowering part of our life, every moment of every day, regardless of what the season is, regardless of what the stresses are, regardless of what the pressures are, regardless of whatever's going on in your life. And it's real easy to laugh and to have fun and to think about the stresses, but you see a lot of this because people relate. It's life. And I'm just here to ask for those that maybe have not made that commitment, maybe have not asked Jesus to be a ringleader of your life, if everybody would just bow your heads. And if you're one of those folks and you're here today and you know your life's a struggle and you know your life's messed up, we'd love to pray with you. Just let us know, any of the leaders, any of the pastors here, we would love to pray for you, because there's nothing better in this world, and anybody that has done it can tell you time and time again, making Jesus the ringleader of our lives is the best possible thing you can ever do. So Heavenly Father, I would like to pray, and I would just like to thank you for being with us here today. And as we all know, Lord, this season, even though we should be celebrating the birth of your Son, the gift that you gave us on this earth, this season so often takes over, and we all struggle and live in the pressures and the stress of it, Lord. And I ask and I know that you make yourself known to each and every one of us, that you reassure to us and light the fire in our hearts and our soul to make you the ringleader of our lives, that Jesus can serve as that ringleader in our lives, and that we can minimize these stresses and pressure and live a life that glorifies you and that glorifies Jesus, and it brings, more importantly, more people to know him, Lord. This is a season that we celebrate your Son and his birth, and it's just an awesome and amazing thing, Lord. So I just ask that if there are people in this room today, Lord, that do not know you or do not know your Son, that they find that you place it in their heart, you give them the strength to talk to one of the leaders and one of the pastors, and that we can pray with them that they can know you too, God, that they can make Jesus the ringleader in their lives. We love you and we pray these things in your name. Amen.